then Ronaldo! Balotelli, Aguero! It's Bergkamp. That's magnificent. Here's Messi. Away from 2, 3, 4. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful.
The Football Drop Podcast.
Hello! It's another FDP special.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Special guest this week. Mate, I love our little special series that we do.
Yeah?
I really do, yeah. And I get really excited. No, you don't. You love it, mate. You love it. Love hearing people's stories, people's backgrounds. I just love talking about football. I think that's why we do this football podcast, really.
Yeah, that is one of the reasons, yeah.
Yeah, it's quite exciting, isn't it?
You wanted to get rich from it, but we're not very good at this, so that's not
happening. No, unfortunately not. I mean, you probably wouldn't say no to getting rich by this, would you?
No.
Yep. No. We've got a special guest on this week. Will, do you want to do the introduction this week?
Yeah, sure. Okay. So we have got. So I think we could quite easily title it different things. So in this podcast, we've had CEOs of a football club. We've had people who are writing books about football. We've had people who commentate on football, like talk about football, report on football. We've had some real big names in that area, especially. We've had managers on. We're getting insight from everywhere. And this episode is about goalkeepers. So, we're going to ask questions on why do people want to be goalkeepers? Now, we've asked you before, and you're like, because I can get my leg flying like right up here, which defies the law of all of human bodies. Like, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore.
But I have to interject a little, because the only reason I'm in goal is because I'm really crap on pitch. It's kind of like you with the left back position. You start up front and work your way back. I'm worse than the left back. That's why I'm in goal.
Yeah, okay. Fair point. So what we've decided to do is get somebody who actually knows about goalkeeping on the podcast. So we've got Paul Sherratt, who is the CEO of Gloveglu, amongst a whole host of other things. So you have a listen, find out. You might learn something, you might not. Will probably make a dick of himself. He might not. So let's buckle up and see what happens.
Here we go.
We've got Paul with us today. Hiya, welcome to the Football Drop Podcast.
Thank you very much, Will. Thank you, Ben.
My pleasure. How are you?
Yeah, no problem. How you doing?
Very well. Very good.
Excellent. I've been really excited to get you on, actually. Ever since I heard you on the Yours, Mine, Away podcast with Mark Howard.
Yeah.
Talking everything, goalkeeping, glove glue, and kind of everything in between. I'm a goalkeeper myself. Not quite at the levels of Mark Howard and co, of course, but I got mugged into it when we didn't have a goalie for five-a-side.
The classic entry into goalkeeping.
Yeah, pretty much. I kind of started off. I was on the pitch for about 3 weeks and then had to drop in goal, and I kind of loved it, to be honest, ever since. Just kind of fell into it, really. So yeah, very exciting. So yeah, I've got a massive sort of vested interest in this week's episode to talk all about goalkeeping.
Will's keeping very quiet on his goalkeeping.
Well, yeah.
He's not raising his hand on this one.
I'm definitely not a goalkeeper, but my little boy is. So he's 8, and he's been playing for about a year now in goal. And he loves it. Like, he's just obsessed.
Beautiful. Yeah. I think it either gets you or doesn't get you. I mean, unfortunately, I don't have any credentials as a goalkeeper at all. So even though we've obviously running this global goalkeeping brand, I've been in the sticks, and I've probably been in the sticks more in the last 10 years than I ever did as a kid. I always fancied myself as a striker when I was a kid. So there you go.
I think everyone did, didn't they?
I did. You've seen the way I hit it.
Oh, Christ, yeah. Yeah. You're a left back for a reason.
So just from sort of like looking at some of the things that you've done before, it's not always football that you've been into, is it? You've got a love of all sport from what we see, like racket sport.
Yeah,
And things
love.
like
I was
that.
that classic kid at school, played in every single sports team, was always behind after every night at school doing something in the PE department, doing something. Absolutely loved it. Um, yeah, and kind of always had. I think I probably wanted to open a sports shop when I was a kid. I think that was maybe was the dream. Was yeah, let's have a little sports shop.
Nice.
And then was very lucky, sort of. My first job, I got it. I got into the sporting goods industry. I started working for Head in the UK, and at the time when I was a kind of teenager, I was a county tennis player and county athletics. So I ended up working for Head. So busman's holiday. I mean, imagine I was, playing with, hitting tennis balls against Goran Ivanisevic, had a tie break with Bjorn Borg and Guillermo Villas, and was meeting Andre Agassi and all my heroes. And it was, I was a young 20-something.
Wow.
Just
How was that?
was amazing. Amazing. I mean, I tell you what, actually, I don't think you appreciated it at the time because you just think it's going to last. You just think, well, I'm in my dream job. I'm never going to leave this job. Why would I want to leave it?
Okay.
And then, of course, you get a bit older and things change and head gets turned and stuff like that. And then, so I've probably got some regrets that I didn't necessarily, I didn't appreciate it. I didn't, it was what it was. And yeah, I'm meeting Andre Agassi as a huge hero of mine. And it was like, okay, well, fine. But so I think I probably I think I appreciate it more now. And I've, worked with athletes for 30 years. I've been in sporting goods now for 30 years. So that was the start. And I've worked with all sorts of brands over the last 30 years in and around sport. So I say worked. I mean, if you're into sport, I spend my days talking about sport, talking to most people, most sport shop owners or distributors or people who work in brands love their sport. And therefore the conversation is always about sport. So it's a great industry to be in.
Love that.
Certainly is. And have you got a football team that you support?
Yeah, again, I mean, this might be strange, and obviously we'll talk about the brand in a little bit more. But when I grew up. I'm a Shropshire lad, so I grew up as a Shrewsbury Town fan, and I think probably when I was about 7. Liverpool were winning everything. So as a 7-year-old, I was into Liverpool. My older brother, who's 6 years older than me, he was into Man U, and they were the two dominant teams in the 70s. So I'm 54, so I was born in 70. So 77, Liverpool winning them. So I was kind of a Liverpool fan, really. And this is going to sound really bad because obviously the tradition is no, you've got to stick with your team. So anyway, did that. Then went to uni in Manchester and used to go and watch City a lot because we could walk to Main Road. So watch City. I've got to say, I probably never passionately followed any of those teams. Well, I could tell you the 1970s sides from Liverpool. Then I've got 2 boys. One is 20, not interested in football at all. One is 17, who absolutely loves football. My father-in-law was born near Highbury, so he basically managed to indoctrinate my 17-year-old into becoming a huge gooner. And as I can see behind you, Will, you'd love that. And so basically the football that I watch now is Arsenal because it's either taking Oliver or the football that's on. Well, in fact, to be fair, he's like me. Sport is on constantly, so it's not just Arsenal. But so yeah, I'm a fan. It's a strange one. I spend my life working with pro footballers, coaches, teams, retailers, whatever. I wouldn't say I'm a passionate fan, but I end up watching a lot of football just because, that's what I do. So
I love that.
take a pick from any of the above, really. Shrewsbury Town, Liverpool, Arsenal, Man City. Sounds a bit flaky, doesn't it?
That's right. We'll take the Arsenal.
Yeah. Just sounds like you love all sports and don't really care. You just like to watch sport and that's it.
I kind of think that's right. I think that's right. I quite happily watch sit down and watch anything, and again, any team in football, if it's a cracking match, why wouldn't you? It's compelling. It brings you in. It's
Absolutely.
I probably watch it in a slightly different way. I think I probably spend most of my time looking at what boots the guys are wearing, or what guys and girls are wearing, and what apparel they're wearing, and all this sort of stuff. And you become very, very aware of the brands in and around every single sport, having been this side of the fence for so long.
Yeah. I assume come Sunday you'll be supporting England.
I will be. So I am English, so I will be supporting England, absolutely. But again, I love the Scots to do well as well. Why not?
Yeah, we were just talking about that before we came on, actually, about watching the game on Friday and how we think Scotland are going to do.
Yeah. We did my digital marketing guy had a bit of fun with some trading cards the other day with some Panini stickers, and we kind of do this. You spray your Gloveglu on your gloves, and pick up the two cards, and the first one to fall off basically loses the game. And he went through the whole draw like this, so teams getting knocked out, and went through, and the final two teams were France. Okay, yeah, that could work, and Scotland. And I won't reveal the result because it'll play out on social media, but it was an interesting result. So I'm not sure whether the Gloveglu social media is going to be the what was the octopus guy a few years ago in one of the tournaments. That was whatever his name was, Ollie the Octopus or whatever was the perfect pundit, wasn't he? But
yeah, there's been so many now though. I saw one the other day on, I think it came up on Facebook. There's some woman with asparagus or something is now guessing and predicting stuff. I think the octopus thing was original. Now it's just too much.
How does the asparagus? At least didn't the octopus move towards the team that?
Yeah, it was in boxes,
How
wasn't
does
it?
what's the asparagus play then?
Literally no idea. I didn't even click it. I thought, I can't be bothered with this.
Yeah. It's good clickbait that though, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely.
Asparagus picks the winner of the Euros. I mean, that's great. That's
got us a treat now.
Yeah, moving on from asparagus. So you kind of obviously mentioned the Gloveglu stuff, and that's the stuff that I want to talk about quite a lot today. How did Gloveglu come about then, and tell us all about it if you can.
So I mentioned at the top of the conversation I've had long time in sporting goods, and in the mid noughties, set up a business that was basically working with predominantly European-based sporting brands, global sports brands, representing those brands in the UK and Ireland with a sales force and customer care and credit control and so on and so forth. And did that for a long time. And one of my core clients, I had multiple clients coming out of different countries in Europe. One of my core clients was Ulfsport, goalkeeping brand. So I got to understand and know the goalkeeping world very, very closely from starting in late 2007, early 2008. And part and parcel of that was working with the pro keepers that we had at the time. So all sorts of keepers during that period, from a sort of a Jaskalainen to Hugo Lloris to Pepe Reina to Lucas Fabianski and all of these guys. So working with those guys was great fun.
Fantastic.
The other thing was working from a product point of view and working with the product teams in Germany and understanding that whole process in and around goalkeeping glove development, but also product development generally. And I'd obviously seen that with other brands in other sports over the preceding years. So in as part of my company at the time, I was also helping other businesses, smaller brands, maybe UK-based brands, get penetration into local markets, UK and Irish markets, but also global markets, helping them with their global distribution strategies and so on and so forth. And back in 2011, there's a guy called Glenn Robertson approached me, and he'd come up with this novel idea of a football with bumps on it called Responsible, a goalkeeping training aid basically that you would throw on the ground and it would randomly bounce in different directions, testing your reactions and your reflexes. So Glenn and I had driven. I said, let me introduce you to some various customers, and we'd been up to Leicester for the day to visit Just Keepers, So one of the online goalkeeping specialist e-com guys in the UK, one of the biggest, taking Glenn to with his response board to introduce him to sell the product into Just Keepers, which he had done quite successfully. And we were driving back, just throwing around, what other ideas could there possibly be in goalkeeping? And I remember exactly where you talk about it was a sliding doors moment. It's a light bulb moment, which he kind of is really weird, but because I can tell you exactly where I was. And I was driving, I was at the bottom of a place called Wick Hill. It's 20 minutes from me. It's between Stow-on-the-Wold and Burford.
Okay.
And I turned to Glenn and I went, I've got it. And he went, oh, got what? And I said, imagine if there was like something, a spray or something you could put on your goalkeeping gloves to make them grippy. Because, if you spend 150 quid on a pair of goalkeeping gloves, they're really grippy, but the latex doesn't last very long. If you spend 10 quid, they're not very grippy at all, but the latex lasts a long time.
Yeah.
Well, imagine if there was a product. So maybe you could buy a pair of 40 quid gloves and you could make them grippy and make them perform like 70, 80 quid gloves. Or imagine because your grip goes, they're made of latex. So when the grip goes, imagine if there was a product that you could revive the grip. So, I mean, that was the conversation. And we kind of went, yeah, that'd be cool, wouldn't it? And, carried on talking about other things and got me thinking. I'm like, okay, I think I can make this happen. So a friend of mine at the time was he'd worked within the boot market. So bear in mind, the boot market in those days was very different. So this is 2011, very different than it is now. There was still some leather boots in the market, kangaroo leather boots. And this friend of mine was a chemist, and he had been working with various boot manufacturers on applying various coatings to football boots. So I gave him the brief and said, look, this is what I want to achieve. Can we produce some sort of grippy something or other? And he's like, yeah, I think we can do that. So over a period of 8 months, these little bottles of white liquid would be sent to me, and I would send them to the aforementioned some of the pro goalkeepers that we were working with. But a guy called Jamie Langfield up in Aberdeen at the time that was goalkeeper. Boaz Myhill was at West Brom, did some stuff with Boaz, sent some stuff to UC, and so the pros were testing it, which was great. Glenn was doing some goalkeeping coaching at the time, so I chucked a load of samples back at Glenn. So Glenn did a load of testing, and after that 8-month period, we got to the point where, we've got this grippy spray thing. This is cool.
And sorry, 8 months was that?
In about 8 months.
Okay.
We then realised. We didn't realise. I was then told. Great. So we've got that. Yeah. Okay. So this liquid's highly flammable. Okay, that might be a challenge when we try and launch that on the global sporting goods market, to ship highly flammable liquid around the world. But we knew where we needed to get to. So chemist went back and reformulated and changed and chopped and changed, and finally took another probably 8 months to get to a point where we had a water-based product, so really latex friendly. Had that same grippy characteristics as the one we'd got to 8 months previous, had tested with the pros and the amateurs alike and club players alike, and got to the point where, okay, yeah, we can now work with this. We can now bottle this. And then so in 2012, June 2012, I went back up to see my mates in Just Keepers because. Good relationship there. They were a good All Sport customer as well, and said, okay, guys, what do you think of this? And they placed the first order. And we all kind of went, I think it's definitely got something, but I had no clue at that stage whether people would embrace it, whether people would get it, whether people would really buy into it, how often they would use it. And we are, 12 years later, and we sell one Gloveglu product around the world every 2 minutes and 30 seconds. Wow. So, it's
Wow.
it's come a long way in those 12 years, basically.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And in 16 months, you've got a product and just run with it. That's
Ran with it,
mad.
ran with it. I was lucky that because of the context I had, I knew a lot of people in a lot of different countries that were carrying different sports brands. So
Okay.
the advantage that I had was, from a B2B perspective, I was able to slowly over time build global distribution into the business. But in all honesty, in 2012, it was a side gig. It was a little side gig, ticked along. My wife and I sat in this very kitchen and would sit around the kitchen table pouring jugs of this sticky stuff, hand pouring, hand labeling, hand screwing the lid on.
Wow.
And unboxing these products and sending them out. And now we have, a 6-figure production line and a conveyor belt and automated thing, and it's all this nice whizzy thing that does it, and and an automatic labeling and all sorts of things. But so yeah, started off very small and slowly grew to become what it is today, really.
And in those years, have you had to sort of change kind of, I don't know if you call it a recipe, but have you had to change the product at all, or has it kind of just remained the same?
Core product still pretty much remains the same. We've kind of changed formulas in the last 6 months for fresh things, but basically what happened is we went from that one single product, Gloveglu, which is now called Gloveglu Original, and then the year after, or 2 years after, in 2014, I looked at, okay, what else can we do to help people look after their goalkeeping gloves in a better way, make them last longer, make them perform better. So launched a glove wash. Lots of brands have a glove wash, but you need to wash your gloves to get rid of the dirt and detritus and everything. And the second thing was a glove fresh, which is a spray to spray inside your gloves to take away the odor. So we launched very quickly this wash, refresh, revive principle, which we still have to this day. And then 2015, there was a demand coming back saying, listen, I've got training gloves, I've got match gloves which get worn, which become my training gloves, and then I buy a new pair of match gloves. But I still love these training gloves, and there's nothing wrong with the glove itself. It's just they're worn away. Can you introduce a stronger glove glue, particularly for those training gloves? So we launched Mega Grip in 2015, and that is now 40% of our global. The hero product is Gloveglu Mega Grip. It's 40% of our global revenue comes from that hero product. Gloveglu Original is our second best selling product still, and we've just gone wide and deep into goalkeeping glove care. So more and more products to make your gloves grippy, to stop them smelling, to keep them clean, and created a niche in the market that didn't exist before. And I've become obviously category king in that niche. We've got competitors starting to come into that space now, but we've got formal distribution relationships in 54 countries around the world.
Amazing.
We shipped in the last 12 months. We've shipped to 87 different countries through e-com. And yeah, who knew that the niche that we're in, and it's not football, it's goalkeeping, but it's goalkeeping glove care. But of course football's a global sport, and the great thing that we've seen in the last 5 years is it's growing because women and girls are coming into the sport. So suddenly there's all these new footballers coming in, giving us a bigger market to go at. And there are certain markets, Australia, US, Scandinavia, some of these markets where women's soccer is really, really strong, that we're just seeing a lot of growth based on the back of that, really.
That's incredible. Absolutely incredible, that. And I love how, sorry, Will, I just love how like the ideas come about. You just sitting in the car, driving home, literally just talking. I think the best things kind of come out of that, doesn't it?
I think there's two things. I think there's one is a lot of people will have an idea. A lot of people have an idea and do nothing about it, and then 2 years, 5 years, 10 years later go, "Oh, I had that idea. I can't believe someone's done that. I thought about that." Well, why didn't you do anything about it?
Yeah.
So I think the big takeaway is try and do it. And I was lucky that I had a relationship with someone that could develop the formula and crack that nut. But again, we could have given up after 8 months. It's highly flammable. This is too long. As you said, 16 months to develop something. I was lucky. I had a core business that was fine. So this was a side gig. So it wasn't make or break. So I think there are lots of things that played in my favor. But yeah, the light bulb moment. People talk about it in love, don't they? Relationships. Oh my God, I met my wife, and it was. But that doesn't always happen. But
No.
Sometimes it does, and sometimes, and I think in this instance, something. The idea was there, and it stuck, and it's fundamentally changed. It's changed my life, really, in the last 10, 12 years, really.
Amazing.
It's fascinating as well, isn't it? Because you like you say, you built up those contacts, and you've got goalkeepers who are using your product as well, and that must just be, it's kind of like the advertisement that you need, isn't it?
I think there's two things. I think one is the amount of product that we're selling. The other thing that really excites me, and I think this comes from me having worked with sports brands for more than half my life, you cannot underestimate the buzz that I get if I jump on a plane and fly to Tokyo or Seoul or Sydney or Oslo or wherever. The buzz that I get walking into a sports store in any one of those countries and more, and seeing those little Gloveglu products on the shelf, that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Japan I love in particular because it's Japanese language, it's different, it's just like it's a completely different feel. So
yeah,
I that's probably the bigger buzz, and it sounds a bit weird, than actually seeing a pro using the products. It's a weird one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I understand that. Yeah, it's how far-reaching it is, rather than a professional goalkeeper in this country sort of saying that they use it.
I was in Istanbul this weekend, actually on holiday for a few days with my wife, and walked into a sports shop, and the guy didn't know anything about Gloveglu. Actually, we don't have much business in Turkey. It's one of the few areas in the world. Actually, we don't have a lot, for obvious reasons. We don't have any business in kind of Russia. China's difficult. Africa's difficult, but the rest of the world we're really, really strong. Turkey, for whatever reason, so far we don't have a real presence. And I walked into this store, and within 5 minutes, like the guy was on board. Why? Because the sales pitch is easy, right? We're selling a product every 2 minutes, 30 seconds. Our social media following is over 1 million. So, we've got 850,000 TikTok followers. We've got nearly 200,000 YouTube subscribers. We've got 60,000 Instagram. So we're selling in all these countries I talked about. So actually, when you're in that situation as a sports shop owner, the guy's like, I'm missing out on something here. I should be stocking this, because he had a real nice range of Adi, Nike, Puma gloves at reasonable price points. And our brand, our product range is the classic upsell, cross-sell product. If you're spending 100 quid on a pair of goalkeeping gloves and someone says, do you want some grip spray? I didn't know there was a grip spray. Yeah, I'll try that. Or do you want some wash? Yeah, I'll try it. So he got that. And that's the buzz as well, is starting to knock the dominoes over. We've seen this huge shift in the last 2 years from being just in soccer specialty stores to starting to be listed in some of the biggest sports retailers in the world. So Dick's Sporting Goods has 900 stores in the US. They're the world's biggest sports retailer. We're just shipping in our first shipment. We've got 2 lines listed in 250 stores.
Oh, wow.
And you kind of think these guys aren't soccer specialty retailers, but they understand that for every 3, 4, 5 out of 10 people that buy a pair of goalkeeper gloves, they could buy a Gloveglu product.
Mm.
And then you just get this momentum, and some people call it tipping point or momentum, whatever it is. I think you get to a point with any business where when you're at that point, the hockey stick of growth becomes even steeper.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to miss out. So if I'm then talking to, we just picked up a retailer this last week from Middle East who has 14 stores in the Middle East, and I could see he's looking at my deck, looking at all these retailers, going, why aren't we stocking this product? We need to be stocking this brand. This makes no sense for us to do that. So it's a lot of fun, gents. It's a lot of fun at the moment.
Yeah. It sounds
Tell.
like, and you've gone sort of from that, and you've got Sportopolis now as well that does the camps and events for goalkeeping. Is that?
Yeah. So I think it's really talked about our social following, and that, of course, that's massively important for us. And what does it do? It connects into the goalkeeping community, and the goalkeeping community is very unique. It's very, everybody's very close in it. It's the goalkeeping union as it's called. And where are those goalkeepers from a grassroots point of view? They're training. They're doing weekly training. They're doing camps and so on and so forth. So got together with Martin Brennan, who's ex-Fulham Spurs goalkeeping coach. Martin's been around the game from a playing and coaching point of view for nearly as long as I've been on the brand side. So he's got a lot of links, got a lot of contacts. He's a phenomenal coach. So the principle 3 years ago was, can we create the best goalkeeping camp in the world? Best in terms of the best coaching for the kids at a level that doesn't matter whether they're 8 or 18, at a level that they probably won't get anywhere else. So bringing in experts in and around nutrition and fitness and mindset, and as well as technical coaches as well. So we launched that 3 years ago. We called it the Nationals, and year one, and we had 2 years at Harrow School. Year one, we had 44 keepers. Last year, we had 88 keepers. We're going to have approaching 250 goalkeepers this year at a new venue, Haileybury School, coming from all over the world. So we had keepers from 14 different countries last year coming to the Nationals. And this thing has just become bigger and bigger and bigger. So we have the Nationals. We then have Gloveglu Academy, which is weekly coaching sessions in and around 6 different venues in and around Essex at the moment, but also with activities in Jersey and in Guernsey and the Isle of Wight. And that Gloveglu Academy side is growing, where we're looking at, educating young keepers, making them better goalkeepers. The Nationals next year will launch not just a summer event, but a spring event as well. We'll have the Nationals. We'll have a tour through the US. US is a huge market for us from a Gloveglu point of view. We're potentially looking at doing something in Australia with Lydia Williams, who's the Australia women's goalkeeper, #1 goalkeeper until recently, and lots of other markets. So the principle being, we can go to any one of our key Gloveglu markets, launch Gloveglu Academy, and use that to underpin everything that we're doing from a brand point of view, but then start to really work with the grassroots goalkeepers. So there's a load of synergies that work between those two businesses now, that we can continue to scale Gloveglu from a brand perspective, but we can continue to scale the Sportopolis business, or Gloveglu Academy business, if you like, and the Nationals events in a real complementary way. We can market these events to our global audience. So that's also a really fun journey that kind of makes sense at the moment.
And do you get bored a lot, Paul?
No.
Don't have time. So much going on.
There is.
Have you sort of seen like lots of sort of goalkeepers that you've seen and you thought they have got something special, and then you're able to sort of see their journey over the years?
I don't have the knowledge to be able to identify them. Martin does.
Yeah.
He's seen that in his career. We haven't yet seen it through Gloveglu Academy as a pathway, because fundamentally that side is really only 2-3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Undoubtedly we will. I've no doubt in 5, certainly 10 years time, we'll have kids that have come to, boys and girls that have come to the nationals or any of our other events, and now they are now playing whatever level it is, which will be a huge buzz. So yeah, I think that will happen. It's bound to happen, not least because the numbers that we're ultimately going to be pushing through these events, and also if you want to be a better goalkeeper, you want to train in the best environments, and if we're presenting the best environment and you're a good goalkeeper at 10, 11, 12, we're probably going to see, would be my guess, even though you're probably also associated with a professional academy at that stage, or with an academy, with the football academy at that stage. You're still looking to get as much knowledge as you can from wherever you can.
Yeah. With someone like Martin Brennan, you're definitely going to get that.
Martin is exceptional. He's got a coaching style that, and I've seen lots of coaches in lots of different sports, obviously, over the years. He's got something that, from a coaching style, is phenomenal, from a knowledge base is phenomenal, from a connection with the athlete, I think is something really special. So all of those attributes are great, and we can bring in through our combined network more and more high caliber coaches, ex-pros. If you look at the profile of the coaches that are going to be on the nationals this year, pretty much every single one of them has been in and around the Premier League at one stage or another. I mean, Martin has coached at every single level in the Football League and National League as well. So I think when you bring in coaches with that level of experience, and kids want to know, what does my journey look like? What could it look like? No matter how high they potentially can get, these guys and girls the coaches can tell them. And then if they, if you can paint the picture, why can't you get there? So if it's visualization, if it's saying, if there's a 10-year-old kid that wants to be in the Premier League, what does it look like? Well, one of our coaches can tell them what it looks like.
Yeah, they've got that real life experience to actually say what it's like.
Massively powerful.
Wow, that's honestly, it just feels surreal. Everything seems to be, all lined up perfectly, and it just sort of just spans off everything you've built over the years, really.
It's a 12-year overnight success. But that's the reality. You look at a lot of these successful brands. I look at my kids' generation, and it's like, and I think there's a perception that there are some shortcuts. And okay, yes, there's a very, very, very small percentage in certain aspects in life at the moment. Let's look at content creators, influencers at the moment, that you can go from 0 to, whatever the number is, very, very quickly. But I think the reality is, for most mere mortals, whether you're building a business or building a sporting career, there's no shortcuts. It's your 10,000 hours, it's your training, it's your constant, it's your highs and your lows. It's keeping focus. It's when times are tough, picking yourself up. So I think it's great, and it's really exciting to be seeing those rewards coming through now. But as I say, the joke of a 12-year overnight success is absolutely right, because, as I said, 12 years ago, the wife and I were sitting around the table pouring, some sticky liquid into some bottles, thinking, well, wouldn't this be nice if it creates a little bit of incremental income? Now the scenario is completely different, and I came away from the other elements of my core business, my other business, nearly 4 years ago, just to concentrate 100% on Gloveglu, because it got to that point, and then A, it needed it, and B, it could sustain me and everything else, and it could grow, it could continue to grow. So but as I say, I always say to my kids, there's no shortcuts. You know, you want to grow your podcast, you want to grow your social media following, everything that you guys want to do. You can't do it by playing at it. You can't do it by going, should we do one this week? Yeah, we'll record on this week. And then next week you go, I haven't really got a guest. Should we leave it this week? Yeah, leave it this week. We'll do it next week. You can't do it. You've got to be consistent, persistent, patient. You just got to keep plugging. And at some point, you go from saying, I've only had 100 downloads this month to, I've had 1,000, I've had 10,000, I've had 100,000, whatever the numbers are. But I think the podcast one's a great one, because I think the stat is something like most people give up after it's either 8 or 10 or something like that.
Yeah, I think we're at 160 or something now, episodes wise.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I completely agree with you on that. It definitely is that hard work pays off kind of mentality. And as you said, as long as you enjoy it, you said you walk into shops and still get that buzz. Honestly, every time we have guests, people very much like yourself, Paul, and we generally get a buzz about it. Yeah. Like, we spoke for about 40 minutes before you came on, just getting all excited and giddy like children. Like, we genuinely just love getting the stories behind it, and just it's just kind of building those relationships, those networks of just talking to people.
Yeah.
Like the contacts you've got with, like sitting there with Mark Howard, for example. Like, I had a chat with Mark a little while ago on LinkedIn and trying to get him on the pod. I was like, Mark, just let us know. He's like, look, I'm doing my degree at the moment. When I finish, absolutely. Then he's ghosted me. I'm like, Mark, come on. I messaged him again. I was like, why are you ghosting me? I was like, come on. And I put a comment on his Instagram, just a bit of a cheeky one, and he liked it. And I just thought, right, okay, we might get there one day. We might get Mark Howard on. And it would be exciting, obviously, to hear his story behind Wrexham and bits and pieces. And it's just, you send a message very much like I did to yourself, Paul. Just, look, it'd be great to have a chat with you, find out a bit about your background, and just learn more about the industry and about the sport that we just somehow just fall in love with, and you can't stop talking about it, really.
I think that's the beauty of pods as well, isn't it? Because not only do you guys get to, have the chats and increase your knowledge, so do the listeners and the viewers. And if people get some value from this, if they take a nugget from this, if whatever it is, I think there's a huge value in that as well.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, just aside from the interesting stories of going to meet these people and jumping on planes just to disappear to the other side of the world and just see your stuff in a shop in Tokyo, for example. Little things like that. It makes such a difference, doesn't it?
It does. I wouldn't give Mark too hard a time. He's he's like he's and I'm sure he won't mind you telling everybody, but he's no different than any other athlete that I've seen that is probably getting to the end of his career in terms of being a player. Maybe there's another season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons, whatever it is. As a goalkeeper, if you can get past 40, you're doing pretty well. Maybe if you get past 35, you're doing pretty well. So you've then got to think about what are your next steps in your career, and Mark's trying to grow and is doing very, very well with his podcast and his, if you like, the media side of things. And that again, you're almost starting from scratch. You spend 40 years as a goalkeeper, maybe it's 30 years, whatever it is, depending on when you started. But you've got to start again. If you want to be, what do you want to do? I want a media business, whatever that means. I want a podcast. You're learning all again. You're going to college. You're learning all the skills. You're cutting your teeth on doing whatever you need to do. So I get that as well. And I also see that's arguably the biggest challenge as a professional athlete, is when you get to that point where your mind is still saying, I can do it, and your body isn't. I'm it comes as no surprise to you, I'm a big tennis fan. You look at what Andy Murray is going through at the moment. He's done. But to accept the fact that you're done is really, really tough if that's all you've known as a pro athlete. So I'm sure Mark is going through that, as are many There's many goalkeepers and athletes at that age.
Sad thing about it, but yeah, it's like it's picking up the next thing, like you say. And you've just started a podcast as well yourself, haven't you? Or you've got one?
So Martin's been doing goalkeeping podcast for a long time.
Okay.
So I jumped in for a season to just have a play with it, really. Just see where we could take it, see what we could do with it. Come in as the haven't got a clue about goalkeeping dumb one, Martin being the clever one. I'm not suggesting with your dynamic there's a dumb and a clever one.
No, we've got dumb and dumber in this one, unfortunately.
Yeah. I'm not sure which one was Ant and which one was Dec, but anyway. So yeah, it was really interesting looking at that and looking where we could potentially take it. But again, taking a step back and going, actually, what's core for us, what's core for me as a business, what's core for him, what's core together. And I sort of took the view that was, okay, actually, at the moment, brand Gloveglu Academy / Martin Brennan is very much about Martin being frank and honest and giving advice to kids and parents about the pathway. And arguably, there's a lot more value in that than there is Paul Sherratt and Martin Brennan for half an hour discussing creating a robo goalkeeper or a cartoon goalkeeper. One of my favourite ones actually was an episode we did on creating a cartoon goalkeeper. So what attributes, what cartoon characters could you come in and what attributes could they bring in? Like Mr. Tickle, long arms, he'd be quite good, wouldn't he? And stuff like that. I know, yeah, it was, yeah. I enjoyed that. I don't know whether our listeners did, but I'm not sure whether it's particularly educational, but we had some fun. So I think the goalkeeper podcast now really, I think adds some value in terms of helping goalkeepers and also their parents understand a little bit more about what it's like to be released from an academy at the age of 13, 14, 15 and why and what do you do and do you give up or do you go somewhere else or does it mean the end of your career and all these sorts of things, which is advice that I'm not qualified to give, whereas Martin is.
And I think that's the joy of podcasts. You make it whatever you want it to be. We sort of change the way we do things pretty much on a weekly basis, depending on what our mood is. We have our general format, but you don't have to stick to that because it needs to be fresh. It needs to be relaxed for people to kind of enjoy it and keep listening. People listening to us for an hour a week. I mean, I get sick of hearing my own voice after about 20 minutes, let alone actually tune in and go, oh, let's listen to Ben and Will this week. So yeah, the fact that you kind of offering a bit of value and a bit of advice, a bit of real life kind of wisdom really is always a bonus to these aspiring goalies.
No, definitely.
Perfect. I want to talk about the Euros if you've still got a bit of time.
Sure.
Because it's obviously just around the corner. How do you think England are going to do? God's honest truth, gut feeling.
So this is a conversation again going back to my 17-year-old. So you've got to imagine the scenario as a 54-year-old bloke that every single tournament since I was, however, I can't remember the first World Cup I can remember was 1978, Argentina, Holland. So I would have been 8 years old then.
Okay.
From then onwards, the expectations before every tournament are, of course, that England are going to win. He hasn't had as many of those periods, so he still has those expectations where do we have the tools to do the job? 100%. We've got closer the last two tournaments. Do you need some luck? Yeah, you do. At what point in the tournament does that luck come? Does it come in group stages? If it does, okay, fine. You really want it to come out in the knockout stages and whatever that luck is or unluck, if you like. And we've had plenty of both of those in the past. Would it be awesome to see? Yeah, of course it would. So I now, I think, go into tournaments quietly optimistic that we have a fighting chance to win, but trying to manage my expectations by then not being overly disappointed if we get knocked out in the group stages. So it's not a great answer, is it? I'm kind of hedging my bets. So I'm kind of saying, all I can say is a maybe. I can't say yes or no.
Spoken like a true politician.
I know
there.
it did sound a bit like that, didn't it? Really. I mean, I'd love to be able to say yes. Of course, we're going to walk it, but yeah, French are going to be good. The Germans they haven't had last two tournaments haven't been great, but it's home turf. You're going to be. They're a great tournament team. So there's three teams that could win it straight away. I mean, for us to be 3-1 favourite. When I looked at the odds a couple of days ago, we were 3-1 favourite.
Yeah,
That's not a great bet. I think that's very, 5-1, 6-1 maybe, but clear fate. Well, they weren't quite clear. I think France were 7-2. So I think that's very confident.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Will was saying, so we did our sort of Euro podcast this morning, and we were just sort of saying about France. We think are probably number one, in terms of their sort of strength across the squad. But for England, it's kind of two different halves. I think he said, Will, wasn't it?
Yeah, you've got the front, the attacking, and the midfield, and then you've got the defence. With the exception of probably Walker and Pickford. And I know you've got John Stones is what's going to happen with him. It's very different from the front to the back.
It is. And do they gel? Will they gel? What will he play? What formation will he play? Yeah, I think it feels like we're still experimenting, which is a bit of a worry. So close to the tournament, I'd like to just see that we're a bit more settled and not being, and okay, I know it's a friendly, but it's not a great confidence booster losing to Iceland, is it?
No.
Especially when we play.
Yeah.
Or maybe you could argue it does the opposite, and it gives the players a kick up the proverbial and makes them say, actually, whatever Iceland are ranked, I think it's 70 something these days. No team. I think that's the difference that I've seen in my lifetime is that you don't get, or you very rarely get the walkover games that you used to see, and therefore there is the opportunity for an Iceland to perform well. Obviously, they're not there, but what have we seen? We've seen Greece win the Euros. We've seen Denmark win the Euros back in the day. So there is an opportunity for a left field somebody, I don't know who that is, to come and do something interesting. Back in the day, you could have said it would be a Portugal, but you're going to have an old man still probably playing this tournament, not way past his best. That probably doesn't help the team, but nobody's going to drop him because there'll be an outroar in Portugal.
Yeah, he still scored 2 the other night as well, didn't he? He doesn't look like he slowed down that much.
Well, that's true.
He's still pretty clinical up front, isn't he?
That's true. But yeah, I see that it hasn't quite made it on the wall, but I think the Euro chart will be on the wall shortly, and we'll be ready to go. And it will be wall-to-wall football in here, and then wall-to-wall Olympics in here, and then so it's going to be a fun summer, that's for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't stop, does it? And then the Premier League season starts.
Then I think that's going to be interesting because that break, I think you're going to get a lot of tired players, all those players that have played in the Euros and then come back straight into the Prem. I think the argument for a mid-season break, the more football that these guys are playing, I think becomes more and more compelling. I don't think we're doing the product of football any favours. I don't think we're doing the athletes any favours with the amount of football that's being played at the moment. I mean, literally the breaks. These guys are. Yeah, there's just no downtime.
No, there's not. And they've introduced a semi-winter break, but it's not really, is it? And the injuries last season, I think, is going to continue around into next season. So they'll have to do something.
It just and if teams are under pressure from financial fair play, but the reality is they need to have bigger squads to cope with the demands of today's footballer. Bigger squads mean more money.
Yeah, it's a vicious cycle, isn't it?
It's a tricky balance to, it's a tricky scale to balance that one.
Yeah, I don't think there's any one solution that's going to solve that. I think it's numerous things that have got to just come together. You've got to stop that commercialization, I think, really. Play less games, play better quality games, and it's a little bit different then.
Well, I think a European league, as a principle, will raise its head again within the next 5 years. Who doesn't? The reality is, and there was a massive fan backlash, but let's think about the timing of that at a time where COVID had been in and around, and we wanted to get back and watch your team and so on and so forth. But who doesn't want to see, if you were certainly a Premier League supporter or top 10 team support, who doesn't want to see a Liverpool playing a Real Madrid, playing a Dortmund, playing a Juventus, playing a whoever on a regular basis, as opposed to a Liverpool Burnley, let's say, and no disrespect to any Burnley fans. I think I've established my credentials as a flaky football fan, so I can get away with comments like that. But I get it in terms of the product of football. Premier League's going to come under more pressure from other leagues, however good, bad, or indifferent they are. Saudi League, there's going to be a lot more money going down there. It's probably never going to be a great league, but it'll take some money because there's so much money going into the Middle East. MLS going to take more money. Pressure will come, and the more it comes, and the less money the Spanish, German, Italian, French teams are earning, the more they will certainly want to look at alternatives to keep feeding this train that they're on, driving the train that they're on.
Yeah, I mean, they don't have the sort of TV power that the Premier League has today. I mean, I think Ligue 1 still don't have a TV partner for next season yet, as it stands.
Yeah.
So it's
and I think there's a huge friend of mine bought Eastbourne Borough last year, and so they're one below they're Conference South. There are some great products. Football is a great product at local level. I'm not saying that the quality of football is great, but everything in and around that, I think it may well swing back to more of a localized, people being more engaged with the local team. If that product is right, and if the exposure is right, and if the TV deals are right in and around the National League, you look at and okay, it was Wrexham driven, but you look at the Notts County Wrexham season in the National League, and the press that it got, and the compelling games that were happening in and around the National League. It was good to watch in terms of a story, and that's we just, if you love watching sport, you want to watch the story, you want to buy into the story.
Absolutely, it's that love affair kind of thing all over again, isn't it?
Yeah, and if it's local to you, I don't think there's anything better. So let's see where it evolves. I just think there will be some things that will evolve at, let's say, the top of the game, and I think there'll be some things that will change at the bottom of the game, as in this country. Those views might be slightly controversial, but that's what it feels from a brand side, and talking to a lot of brands that I know, a lot of mates that I have in the industry, in and around team wear and all of those sorts of those football brands. There's some things are shifting, definitely.
No, I mean you're definitely in the know more than us, so yeah, we'll take your word on it, Paul. So there you go, guys. You've heard that from Paul himself, the absolute expert.
Absolutely.
The expert flaky football fan, I think.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Exactly.
Wow.
No, honestly, Paul, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show today. Really appreciate your time. It's been really insightful, and I've really enjoyed it. And I hope you guys at home or wherever you're listening have enjoyed it. You'll be able to find all the links for Gloveglu in the description below. Obviously, feel free to follow them across all the social media platforms. But yeah, once again, a massive thank you.
Thanks, gents. Really enjoyed it.